Welcome to worship for the Unitarian Universalist community of Charlotte. I'm Jay Leach, a minister of this congregation. And I'm joined this morning by John Herrick, our director of music, and our lay service leader, Fred Dodson. Thanks for joining us through the miracle of technology. We offer this online service on a weekend that began with Friday the 13th and ends with the Ides of March. Virus or no virus, isn't that reason enough to feel cautious and concerned? Beware this day, this mid-March Ides Day, counseled Shakespeare. Beware lest you end up like one Julius Caesar with a brutally stabbing pain in your back. Now, I'm guessing no one watching this awoke today with an ominous feeling simply because it is the Ides of March, which is hardly to suggest that we have no fear or cause for fear. Today, informed by a line in a Gregory Pardlo poem in which he writes of a fear of hobgoblins and philistines, we reflect on the way fear manipulates and motivates and misleads. Welcome to each of you. Now, typically in services in our sanctuary, as we prepare to sing our first song, we stand and greet one another with handshakes and hugs. Today, I'm going to invite you to offer virtual greetings. Now, here's how you can do that. While John is playing the tune of our song, "Come and Go With Me to That Land," I invite you to go to the land of our congregation's public Facebook page. Open a new window in your browser, go to Facebook, and look for the Unitarian Universalist Church of Charlotte. There's a post already set up that's welcoming you to this service. I invite you then to post a greeting in the comments. Now, if you are a guest or if you are from outside of our region, please indicate that in your comments. In lieu of hugs or handshakes this morning, I was going to invite those present to offer the beauty of a namaste greeting, a bow of acknowledgement, that which is most worthy in you, bowing to greet that which is most worthy in another. To each of you, I offer that greeting. Namaste. Welcome.
Out of the flames of fear, we rise with the courage of our deepest convictions. We stand for justice, inclusion, and peace. We will now light our chalice.
We offer as a reading this morning the well-known poem by C.P. Cavafy, Waiting for the Barbarians.
What are we waiting for assembled in the forum?
The barbarians are due here today.
Why isn't anything going on in the Senate? Why are the senators sitting there without legislating?
Because the barbarians are coming today. What's the point of senators making laws? Once the barbarians are here, they'll do the legislating.
Why did our emperor get up so early? And why is he sitting enthroned at the city's main gate, in state, wearing the crown?
Because the barbarians are coming today, and the emperor's waiting to receive their leader. He's even got a scroll to give him, loaded with titles, with imposing names.
Why have our two councils and praetors come out today, wearing their embroidered, their scarlet togas? Why have they put on bracelets with so many amethysts, rings sparkling with magnificent emeralds? Why are they carrying elegant canes, beautifully worked in silver and gold?
Because the barbarians are coming today, and things like that dazzle the barbarians.
Why didn't our distinguished orators turn up as usual to make their speeches, say what they have to say?
Because the barbarians are coming today, and they're bored by rhetoric and public speaking.
Why this sudden bewilderment, this confusion? How serious people's faces have become. Why are the streets and squares emptying so rapidly? Everyone going home lost in thought.
Because night has fallen, and the barbarians haven't come. And some of our men, just in from the border, say, there are no barbarians any longer.
Now what's going to happen to us without barbarians? Those people were kind of a solution.
Perhaps you too have seen this ominous. Is your washroom breeding Bolsheviks message? The conflicting reports as to whether this ever actually appeared as a Scott tissue advertisement in the 1930s, and if so, just how far the company had its tongue in its cheek with this odd warning. The lengthy text begins, "Employees lose respect for a company that fails to provide decent facilities for their comfort. Try wiping your hands 6 days a week on harsh, cheap paper towels or awkward, unsanitary roller towels, and maybe you too would grumble. That's why you'll find cloth-like Scott tissue towels in the washrooms of large, well-run organizations." The implication is, opt for cheap paper towels, and soon the Reds will be leading a revolt, turning your poorly run organization into a breeding ground for Bolsheviks. Whether or not the Scott advertisement was real, this one from Detroit's Bone Aluminum and Brass Corporation is most certainly authentic. It has a similar warning. Every red move is calculated to checkmate freedom. Moscow's worldwide attack pattern never changes. Intrigue, lies, pressure, threats, violence, revolution. The result is communism and slavery. The next move may be aimed at your freedom. Oh, how terrifying, those ominous red pieces attacking, I'm sure this is just coincidence, attacking the white ones. Like the famous Cavafy poem about the imminent arrival of the barbarians that you heard a few moments ago, the strategic capacity to cultivate concern, to foster fear, is a long-standing tactic. If we can be convinced to fear them, if our tribe can be manipulated into fearing theirs, then we'll agree to act in certain ways and to allow certain things to happen in the name of protecting us from those we're counseled to fear. And as in Cavafy's last line, barbarians, Bolsheviks, or Mexican rapists are, he ironically writes, a kind of solution. Arish Javanbat, who is an associate professor of psychiatry at Wayne State University, explains, tribalism is the biological loophole that many politicians have banked on for a long time, tapping into our fears and tribal instincts. The typical pattern is to give the other humans a different label than us, and say they are going to harm us or our resources, and to turn the other group into a concept. It does not have to necessarily be race or nationality, which are used very often. It can be any real or imaginary difference. Afraid is a country where they issue us passports at birth, wrote Audre Lorde in her journal, and hope we never seek citizenship in another country. Consider then this political speech. We have predators on our street that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. They are beyond the pale. Many of those people beyond the pale. And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society, a cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing. So said Joe Biden in a speech from the floor of the Senate. He proudly, even mockingly proclaimed, every time Richard Nixon, when he was running in 1972, would say law and order, the Democratic match or response was law and order with justice, whatever that meant. And I would say, lock the SOBs up. Lock these predators up, because of course they are not like us, are not like our kids, who, if you understand Biden's dog whistle, are not beyond the pale, but merely pale. These times, with our rightful concern about public health and safety, are the perfect breeding ground, not for Bolsheviks, but for xenophobia. In the President's Oval Office address this week, he strategically invoked a phrase designed to foster the kind of fear that has been his specialty since beginning his campaign. Did you notice? This is the most aggressive and comprehensive effort to confront a foreign virus in modern history. To confront what? A foreign virus. One that obviously comes from them. And what's the best tactic for confronting a foreign virus? Well, if you're this president, you reach for the blunt instrument of a travel ban, trying to keep them out, while explaining that, unlike his sagacious strategy, they failed to take the same precautions. It's the same mindset that motivated him to endorse a guy named Tommy Tuberville, who is currently running to be a Republican senator for the state of Alabama. This brilliant mastermind of fear explained in a campaign speech that we have more Middle Easterners coming across the border than we do Mexicans. They're coming from all over the Middle East. They're coming across the border, and he said, they ain't leaving. They're coming for a reason. Folks, they're taking over. And if we don't open our eyes, it's going to be over with. Now, as with the Biden citation, let's not pretend like this only happens in one of the two major political parties, or that it is confined to political discourse. Pay attention, and you'll hear fear-based rhetoric designed to demonize all kinds of people for all kinds of reasons. Suburbanites expressing fear of what is urban, and rural people suggesting that there's cause to fear both suburbanites and the urban. Yankees fearing Southerners, and Southerners fearing Yankees, and all of us a little suspicious of Texans. Religious people suggesting that we should fear atheists because they have no values and they will undermine the moral framework of our community. And atheists fostering fear of religious people, painting all of them with the same narrow-minded, fear-based brush. Jean Toomer, Harlem Renaissance writer, acknowledged, fear is a noose that binds until it strangles. And let's admit it, we're all susceptible. Who of us does not, from time to time, give in to irrational fears? Haven't we all found ourselves listening to and taking seriously those who proffer an image of them, primarily designed to convince us that they will do us harm? Writer Elizabeth Gilbert, in a conversation on the NPR show On Being with Krista Tippett, recognized, terrified people make terrible decisions. Terror and fear make you irresponsible. They make you think not very clearly, and they make you willing to do almost anything to get rid of that awful feeling. And we've seen people do that on the individual level, she continued, and we've seen cultures do that. And we've seen politicians who find ways to exploit terror and fear in order to get short-term power, or sometimes long-term power. Because she says, if you can figure out how to hold the reins of other people's fears, then you can control them for a while. But then Elizabeth Gilbert proposed an antidote. One of the most powerful ways, she said, one of the most powerful ways to not end up being controlled by that is to remain more curious than you are afraid. More curious than afraid. It's a powerful corrective. When we hear someone railing against whole groups of people, trying to convince us that they mean us harm, we can combat such fear with curiosity. Is this productive, or is it just prejudice, rooted in reason, are based in some belief akin to imagining that there are Bolsheviks lurking in nearby washrooms? Curiosity just might motivate us to seek out and commit to a spiritual community like ours. This is a place where we honor, where we respect, where we appreciate Jewish and Christian teachings, wisdom from the world's religions, the words and deeds of prophetic people, humanist teachings, and our own direct experience. A place where we look with rightfully curious suspicion on any who would denigrate or dismiss them simply because of their religious background or their chosen religious pathway or their lack thereof. A place valuing curiosity, new possibilities, new understandings, even every few decades or so a slightly new name. I've long appreciated poet Lucille Clifton's admission. It's all right to be afraid. It's human to be afraid. There are fearful things in the world. So I think you almost have to be afraid. Let nothing said today suggest otherwise. Of course there are things we rightly fear. A total absence of fear would be as irrational as so much of the fear-mongering that we encounter. But back to Elizabeth Gilbert, who says, our fear is contagious, but our courage also is. And our courage makes other people be able to be more brave and come out of their houses, and come out of their shells, and come out of their fear. Challenged, as we say here, challenged by our liberating faith, we cultivate courageous connections, especially in these perilous times. May it be so.
I'd like for you to imagine this conversation between two human beings. I was one of those humans in a very contentious rezoning meeting. After the meeting, I was approached by an older white man who was visibly upset and chose to vent his anger at me. I have unfortunately grown accustomed to such behavior. I've learned that people feel emboldened in large crowds, but face to face, they tend to calm down a little. True to form, he had been vocal during the meeting, but seemed to relax a little as he approached me. He pointed and waved a finger in my face and said, "You," meaning me, should be ashamed for bringing those people into my neighborhood just so they can be mistreated by us. I'll say it again. You should be ashamed for bringing those people into my neighborhood just so they can be mistreated by us. I was taken aback and speechless. This was new. I struggled to quickly do the math in my head. Somehow, I was the villain, leading those people to the scary South Charlotte neighborhood where people can't help but to be rude. I think that's what he was trying to say. Or was he confessing that he had no self-control and will lash out at his new neighbors, whomever those people may be? No, I think I know what he was trying to say. He was trying to tell me that he was afraid. That's not just spin. I acknowledge his humanity. I understand the power of anger when mixed with a generous dose of fear. He was afraid of change and afraid of the strangers I plan to bring to his neighborhood. Now imagine that same interaction from the stranger's perspective. It's a perspective that I know well. It's in my DNA. I can't avoid it, and I have no desire to do so. But it's complicated, and it leads to odd compromises and worries that I have a difficult time explaining, but let me try with this example. I was recently driving behind a young white man who drove a nice SUV. I caught a glimpse of his face and recognized him as one of my colleagues. I happened to notice while driving behind him that his car registration had expired over a year ago. That got my attention. It always does. I thought of my son, Malcolm, a young African-American man just a few years younger than my colleague. As his father, I am responsible for protecting him from harm. When he was younger and lived with me, there is no way that I will allow his registration to lapse by even 1 month. Why is that? It's so much more than trying to avoid a ticket or a monetary fine. It too is encoded in his DNA. He, I fear, may be stopped by those in authority and treated as one of those people. He could be at risk of suffering an insult much more menacing and consequential than a finger pointed in anger and fear. I am convinced that we must stop putting one another in categories. I do it all the time, and when I do, I try to stop and note that it is happening. I find that when I do so, it's easier for me to control my own anxiety when encountering a stranger, and I grow closer to their humanity. I'd like to welcome all of you who are joining us virtually today, and simply say that we cannot wait, I cannot wait, until this room is filled with all of you again. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Fred Dodson, member of this congregation and today's lay service leader. So we actually have another person here in the room with us. John Burns, who is a member of this year's stewardship team, and John is going to come up and speak now. John.
Good morning, and welcome to all of you out there. As Jay said, I'm a member and also on the stewardship committee. I was raised, there are two topics you shouldn't talk about in public: money and sex. And I have to give you fair warning, I'm going to break one of those rules. I'm going to talk about one of those topics. So as you all wonder, anyone who's been part of our Whole Lives program knows UUs are pretty good about talking about sex. So we can be open and honest with that, so I don't have to go there. I'm going to go to money instead. I'm going to be brief on this. I just want to let you know this is taking me very much out of my comfort zone. It may take you out of your comfort zone as well, so join me in a deep cleansing breath if you would. Thank you. I work for a big bank in the IT department. And so I have a job with a fair amount of stress and responsibility, but I'm extremely well paid for what I do. And I feel I'm very fortunate in life to be in the position I'm in. My pledge this past year was $650 a month, and I thought, yeah, that seems pretty substantial. I feel good about that. As you probably know, our campaign this year has been, can you increase by 8%? So I did the math, and actually the math was easier to do 10%, and I was like, wow, okay, I'm going to jump it to $715 a month. I'm in the 3%, that feels good. Seemed fair to me. As I've spent more time in this community, talking with people and just learning about our community here, I realized two significant things. The first is there are a lot of people who make significantly less than me that give more as a percentage of their income. And the second is, at our current pledging rate as a community, we're going to fall short of where we need to be if we really want to prosper and thrive as a community. So I thought about that a lot and what this community means to me, and also to the larger world. It's not just about my community, it's all of our community, and it has a place in this world. I also thought about my legacy. This is probably a time when a lot of people think about their legacy. I have a pretty simple religious philosophy, which I learned in a laundromat, and if you want to hear that story, come find me sometime. Really, it boils down to, at the end of my life, I'll be asked two things. What did you learn, and who did you help? I've decided that a part of my answer will be, I learned there are things more valuable than money, and also, I helped a group of caring, committed people boldly try to change the world. Because of that, I'm choosing to increase my pledge to $1,000 a month. That is well outside my comfort zone. I don't like feeling beholden. I don't like feeling that I have to earn a lot of money. And I don't know how long the good times will last in banking. They're great right now, and it pays very well. That won't be forever. But when I look at the other side and I think about this community, what it means to me, the idea of stepping back from what I really see as a battle for the soul of the world, that feels worse than my anxiety about coming to this church. I also think of the alternative if this church wasn't here, if this community was not something that I could be a part of. And that also feels worse than making a stronger commitment. So, there are a lot of things I can't do for you and for this community, but this I can do, and so I will. Thank you.
Thank you, John Burns. As many of our members are aware, we've sent a consistent message for years. We've invited you to tithe, to give 5% of your gross household income to this congregation, but only 5%, and to save another 5% for causes in this larger community that need our support, our financial help. There are, as many of you are aware, posted on our Facebook page right now, there are opportunities. There are ways you can be involved in this current crisis to help support people that are trying to meet very immediate needs. Thanks to those of you who've already taken action, I point others of you to that post, one you'll find both on our member and on our public Facebook page. But I want to tell you about a conversation I had just this morning. It was with our member, Lisa Marie Nisley. She is the Community Development Coordinator for the Second Harvest Metrolina. Lisa tells me they are now serving 24 North Carolina counties. And the need, which was already significant, has grown much more perilous in these recent days. What can we do? I asked Lisa Marie Nisley, and she suggests 3 things. First, follow Second Harvest Metrolina on Facebook. Find them on Facebook and follow them. The second thing is you can go to their website for the latest information about their actions, secondharvestmetrolina.org. But the third thing, with that other 5% that I mentioned, you can make a financial contribution. Lisa Marie Nisley gave me a remarkable formula. She said for every $1 that we give to Second Harvest Metrolina, they can create 7 pounds of food for our hungry neighbors. That may be a place you'd like to contribute. Going forward, we will be posting other opportunities, other ways that you can get involved. Watch our Facebook pages for that information. We'll also be communicating with our congregation early this week about how we will continue to be a congregation in these challenging times. Watch for that message. We'll be using technology, but we also invite you to reach out to one another. Make calls, make contact, be in touch with one another, send cards. Send cards especially now to Ann Magnuson, to Judy Reynolds, to Mimi Vallum, to others in our congregation who would appreciate hearing from you. Today we hold with love members who are especially stressed in these times, members who may be alone. We hold with love and in our prayers our members who are healthcare providers, who are nurses, who are doctors, who are therapists, who are hospice workers, who volunteer, who serve with those who are elderly. We hold with love those in leadership who are having to make hard decisions without a clear roadmap. Now, if you have a need in this time, we want to do all we can to support you and care for you. Please let me know. Let Martha Nisley know. You can call us here. You can reach us by email. We want to know how you're doing and how we might help. If you're regularly a part of these services, you know that we have candles on stands, and we invite, during the playing of our offering music, anyone in the room to come forward and light a candle. Today, I light our candles. I light one for each of you, an extension of our love and our care and our support. I light another for our community, especially for those who are most vulnerable in these days. And I light a third candle on this day for our world and for all in this world who are seeking to heal, to calm, to comfort, and to upend, to create justice. Were this a normal Sunday, at this time our choir would sing a powerful piece called "Take Down These Walls." Instead, we have the great privilege of hearing John Herrick play that same piece, "Take Down These Walls." I invite you into a time of meditation and aspiration, to slow your breathing, to become conscious of your breath, Wherever you are watching this service, I invite you to close your eyes, to settle deep into yourself, to hear with an open spirit these words from Jan Richardson: blessing when the world is ending. Look, the world is always ending somewhere. Somewhere the sun has come crashing down. Somewhere it has gone completely dark. Somewhere it has ended with the gun, the knife, the fist. Somewhere it has ended with the slammed door, the shattered hope. Somewhere it has ended with the utter quiet that follows the news from the phone, the television, the hospital room. Somewhere it has ended with a tenderness that will break your heart. But listen, this blessing means to be anything but morose. It has not come to cause despair. It is simply here because there is nothing a blessing is better suited for than an ending. Nothing that cries out more for a blessing than when a world is falling apart. This blessing will not fix you, will not mend you, will not give you false comfort. It will not talk to you about one door opening when another one closes. It will simply sit itself beside you among the shards and gently turn your face toward the direction from which the light will come, gathering itself about you as the world begins again. Blessed be.
We are not able today to gather to accept your offering, but remember this the next time that we gather, that this place of worship and wonder is our spiritual home. It only exists because you make it so with your generosity. I'll now read an affirmation of our faith. This is the mission of our faith: to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands.
So I have a confession to make. Those of you who attend here on a regular basis know that you will never find me in this room with my cell phone. Today I have made an exception. I have my phone with me, in part because I was monitoring your greetings. Thank you so much for going to our Facebook page and offering your heartfelt greetings to one another. They made it into this room and they bolstered us as we offered you this service. Now, the only way we've been able to do this is through the generous involvement from another of our members. I don't think it's possible to turn the camera on him. He's shaking his head no. Behind the camera, our member Chris Clark has made this possible for all of us. Chris, on behalf of the whole congregation and beyond who have appreciated what you've made possible today, thank you so much for the generous gift of your time and your involvement here in this way. Folks, we'll keep doing this in one form or another. You can keep coming back here. We'll be informing you. Go to our Facebook page and we'll let you know how to access other parts of our programming technologically. For now, I invite you to lean deeply into those whom you love the most, to put your arms of care around them, to extend your love and your care beyond them, to those nearby, and to an even wider circle that needs our involvement more than ever. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of others. And do not forget, even in these times, that we live in a world that is full of beauty. Go on your ways in peace.